extraordinary week with the return of the astronauts from going around on the dark side of the moon, and all the pictures that they sent back with that. But as we prepare for the 250th anniversary of America, I can't help but to reflect on where I was in 1976 and the last significant celebration of America. Looking around this room this morning, other than probably Michael, I think we all have some memories of that period of time. For instance, I remember, I was a pretty cool guy. I remember square dancing on the corner of Cameron and Piccadilly Street in Winchester during the celebration in early July. I would have been 14 years old at the time. I also remember traveling to Cumberland, Maryland with a friend and his father to board the American Freedom Train. If you remember that, it traveled around the 48 states. And we wandered through the cars and looked at the different displays. So now, we find ourselves 50 years later. We find ourselves in this place and this time, looking forward probably with the realization that maybe only Michael has a chance to see what the world will be like in another 50 years. That is, unless you believe everything you see on TV. I saw a show the other day that claimed that we will advance so far in science in the next 6 years that we will know how to allow people to live forever. I'm not sure about that. But since I began with a train theme, please allow me to continue just a few minutes and travel down a side rail with a thought that maybe some of you might be interested in. You see, as I remembered those days 50 years ago, I began to consider all the ways that things have changed since I took that trip to Cumberland. And I thought about this, and I thought, well, it might be worth our while to spend perhaps the rest of the year gathering things we feel have meaning to us and place them in a box so people 50 years from now will at least know that this group existed. Now I know this process is a bit cliche, but you know what? If we did this, I already know what I would put in there. I would put in a roll of pennies that each of you would sign.
Oh boy.
And then with a little name and address of probably the youngest person that you know, so we could return those pennies, as you know they aren't going to make them anymore 50 years from now. But I also ask you, what would you consider? What would you put in there? And is this something that perhaps we want to do? And I'll leave it at that. But this idea came to me as I was trying to gather information for this message. You see, when I think back to those days and relate those thoughts to this group, I immediately start wondering about our individual congregations. How many people attended worship on a regular basis? How many men were active members of those congregations? I know that the Strasbourg United Methodist Men have been around since April 1st, 1951. We've been a regular charter organization since then. But their numbers and their activities are still a bit vague, and I'm sure without some other types of research, that same information for your groups is the same. It may be available, but you'll have to dig it out. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." So looking at this group this morning and what we can accomplish. No, perhaps what we must accomplish. In the name of men's ministry in Strasbourg and the surrounding areas in the coming years, and of course thinking about how we sustain this movement for the next 50 years, is a daunting task. Especially considering the current environment we are living in. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm getting tired of hearing the reason our current situation in churches and men's groups is that we're still living in the post-pandemic world. Now, just because I'm tired of hearing it doesn't necessarily mean it's not true. If you would ask many of us around in this room what the chances of the Moose Club closing its doors after a kitchen fire a few years ago and never to reopen, most of us would have gotten that answer wrong. Both social groups and spiritual gatherings have taken a hit and haven't fully recovered. This will make our success more difficult to achieve. And if the work and responsibility rests solely on our shoulders, then we would easily fail. But in Isaiah 40:31, we read, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." Amen?
Amen.